Hello, I'm Tammy Filion, Finance Administration Vertical Leader with Amazon Web Services. We're here today with our customer, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and our partner, SMX, to talk about migrating their tax system to AWS. I'd like to introduce our panelists today, starting from left to right. Hind Moadan, who is the lead consultant for the Massachusetts Department of Revenue. Aaron Botello, who is the Chief Information Officer for the Massachusetts Department of Revenue. And Ron Lovell, who is lead architect for state and local government solutions with SMX. Welcome, everyone.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Glad to be here.
So, Aaron, I'd like to start with you with a question. So, you had your recent migration in 2022 to AWS. Tell us about your experience with that migration and some of the benefits you've seen and what the catalysts were.
So I think some of the primary drivers for us wanting to migrate our on-premises tax application to AWS were the closing of data centers. So we're looking to migrate our entire portfolio out to AWS, and we started with the tax platform. Another driver that was facing us was a hardware refresh, and that was a driver for us to decommission the data centers as well as look to avoid doing that hardware refresh. Moving the tax application was our biggest application by far, so it was a little, I think, intimidating, but at the same time, when you go back and reflect on the lesson, we learned a lot of lessons as a result of tackling our biggest application first. The application itself was a COTS application that we have in place today, so the movement or migration of the application was pretty easy, I think, from that sense. The application wasn't customized, so we really kind of understood how to set it up, how to install it. We had our partners at Smartronix over here help us bring the cloud expertise that our team was lacking because we're very new on our cloud journey at the Department of Revenue, and they helped bring that expertise in to help set up the infrastructure that supports our cloud application in AWS today.
Thank you, Aaron. So, Ron, SMX, one of the partners for the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Tell us about that journey and how you were involved in the migration.
So SMX is a longtime partner for the Commonwealth. We have undertaken multiple migrations for different secretariats. Through that process, we've learned a lot about how to operate in the Commonwealth and develop the really good partnerships with all the secretariats, technical personnel and business personnel. The second thing is, because of our work in the DoD and other federal agencies and other state agencies, we have a lot of experience with compliance, highly compliant environments. So we use that experience to make sure that the architecture is going to meet the needs of the Department of Revenue. Obviously, IRS 10975 is a key standard that we need to meet, and so we're using our experience to do that. One of the specific things that we helped with was the completion of the IRS's cloud computing notification, and so I was able to help Aaron and Hind with that, and also I was able to reach back to our compliance team, which is very, very well seasoned.
Security and compliance, hands down, very important to our tax customers. I know, Aaron, you've talked about your experience with AWS with me and some of the unique benefits that AWS brought to the table. Can you expound on that for us?
Yeah, I think as we were starting to look at our portfolio migration, we started to work with our centralized tech office. The Commonwealth of Massachusetts has a centralized tech office, and he established relationships very early with us with Tom Cobb from AWS, who has set up workshops for our team every Monday so they can come in for 45 minutes and talk to other solution architects from AWS. In addition to that, Tom has done an assessment on our team for upskilling our team and trying to figure out where we would utilize AWS within our app dev teams and infrastructure teams. They were also really critical in trying to figure out what the balance of our instance sizes would be in AWS. In the beginning of the exercise, when you're on-prem, you sort of build for filing season all the time in a tax application because you need to make sure that it meets that performance all the time. And that could be challenging from a cost perspective when it came to AWS. So Tom's team was very helpful in coming in and providing a solution architect that had worked on a previous migration of the COTS application that we're in to AWS, and we were able to find the right size, placement size as a result of that.
So, Hand, you were part of this important migration project, and really kind of a key component to stakeholder collaboration. So, talk to us about the lessons learned with the migration of the tax system to AWS with
Sure.
SMX.
So given the magnitude and the complexity of the system, it's the tax system, it's one of the biggest applications in the Commonwealth. By virtue, the number of lessons learned, we had quite a large number, a little bit over 40. So the two most important lessons learned, one of them focuses on what we did well. It's not only what we could do better on. So what we did well is that this project consisted of 5 different organizations. There's EOTS, ANFIT, SMX, FAST, and our clients, the Department of Revenue. There was a high level of collaboration and integration amongst all of these teams from a technical perspective, business. So it required a lot of integration, a lot of communication to make sure that no balls got dropped throughout the process. So that's one area that the team did phenomenally well on. One area that we could have done better on is FinOps and cost. We typically think of FinOps as a process that gets introduced after you go live. In reality, moving from a pay up front to a consumption-based model, the cost is a factor from the very beginning of the project. And that's one area that we could have done on to make sure that cost is optimized from when the project started. And that's one lesson learned that we're going to take forward on future projects as we migrate more applications to the cloud.
Great feedback, great feedback. What about from a licensing perspective as well? How was SMX and AWS instrumental in working with you on those licensing costs?
That's an excellent question. So licensing also needs to be an upfront and center question that needs to be discussed. And there was a big lesson learned on the licensing. Do you bring your own license, or do you go with a subscription-based licensing model? And there are huge cost ramifications depending on which direction you go. So that was another lesson learned that we've taken away, is that conversation needs to happen very, very early on in the project to make sure that the cost, we have cost efficiencies throughout the projects and not after we go live.
Great feedback, and great for other customers that are listening and watching this today to hear that from the Commonwealth. So Aaron, I know just one more question for you, and that deals with next phases with the partnership with SMX and with AWS. Any final thoughts there that you would like to share for the audience for us today?
The Commonwealth has many additional applications that it still needs to migrate to AWS, so we are working with our partner SMX to do a cloud roadmap assessment, which will allow us to come up with a roadmap to move those applications into AWS. And we're going to continue to work with our account representatives with AWS during that time in collaboration with SMX to come up with a successful journey to the cloud for the remaining applications.
Thank you. Great conversation today. We appreciate you being here.